Alright, welcome. If you're new to the channel, we are building the ultimate E36, period. That's it. No compromises, no nothing. We are staying true to the BMW heritage, so that means no LS swap in this one. We've gotten an S54 engine out of a BMW M3. We've upgraded to CSL specs and then went even above and further with a GTR intake manifold system, which we don't know if it's gonna fit yet, but we're gonna find that out later in this episode when we try to make all these components fit. This, however, is not just a race car, no. This is gonna be built for the Nordschleife, the Nürburgring, where every car has to be street legal. Meaning you can't just make a full-on race car, it has to be street legal, has to pass emissions, it has to pass a bunch of shit. We've even gone to extreme lengths to put the full interior back into the car. Alright, and we heard you guys loud and clear. The videos have to be brighter, it was too dark. So we put in all these nice little panels here and then we shut them off and use a bunch of lights here to make it look cool. But yeah, we'll turn on the lights. It'll look like dog shit. So have it your way. Alright, so in the last episode we put the engine into the car. But there's a big problem because we've opted for a carbon intake manifold, which normally ends up right here in the engine bay, sucking up hot air, which isn't ideal. For that, we have this little guy that's gonna go right here. And this is specifically made for E46 GTR race cars. This is designed to take fresh air from the kidneys straight into the engine, resulting in more horsepower. The only tiny issue is the radiator is also sitting here, so one of them has to go. However, this is not the only part we've stolen from the E46 GTR. You see, we figured, why not use the rest as well? Because they have this really sophisticated, really awesome intake setup for the radiator. They're using a slanted radiator to make room for the intake setup, and for that they've made this wonderful carbon piece that sits slanted, houses the radiator inside, and acts as an intake manifold for the radiator setup. This is going to come from the front bumper. As you know, the E36 is slightly smaller than the E46 GTR or even a normal E46. So we're going to have to see if we can make this work. It has to. Ja? Kijk, deze blijft. Dat is één ding. Deze blijft. De rest zoek ik maar uit. We're first gonna make the inlet manifold fit because we have the least amount of space to move that around, because the intake manifold is gonna clip onto here and sit right in between these mounts. So that has nowhere else to go. So we're gonna put that in and then use this as a reference to see how far we can push the limits on this one. So let's get to it. So the biggest problem we're facing now is that the radiator is going to be sitting here and is most likely going to interfere with the supports here. So the plan now is to put it in, then we're going to see what we have to cut out in order to make it fit. Baby, that's just fine. Get off your back and kill on mine. Think I'm part of the solution, but I'm part of the pollution. Wanna really make a difference, wanna start a revolution. But believe me, I'm gonna close that door, cause why you less when you could get more? I'm getting a lot, cause there ain't nothing to it. There ain't nothing to it, so come on. I'm getting a lot. Something like that, in theory. This still has little dents from a little parking incident I had at the Nürburgring when I was parking it in the guardrails. Okay, so this is sitting in the final position. This is as low as it's gonna get because this needs to be as low as possible to get as much air. This has to move forward to get the maximum clearance. It cannot pass through this. We can, however, slightly modify it, which we're gonna have to do. There's a little notch in here, so we can leave this side most likely and only cut out this side. And then we should be able to move it forward, slant it a little bit more, and in theory we should have enough clearance. In theory. All right, we're quickly gonna mount the old front bumper to see where we're at in terms of ground clearance, because we're gonna be cutting it close, close to the floor. All right, this might also be a good time to mention that we're not gonna be using this bumper. There's gonna be coming something in carbon, obviously, but you're gonna have to see what that is, because it's not just an ordinary bumper, and it's also not one of those Superstore bumpers you see. However, it will be close to something like that. Because it was a pain in the ass to get, so it's gonna take a couple of weeks before it's here, but trust me, it will be worth the wait. Same for these bad boys. We're gonna ditch them. I've already said too much. Mounting the bumper, we now have a better idea of how everything is going to line up, because the different bumper we have in mind still has this gap here for the radiator. So we know how far it's going to come forward, and we know how much wiggle room we have, because as it's sitting right now, we're not quite there yet. It's still sitting a bit too low. All right, as you can see, we have the lowest part of the car, which is the subframe and the steering rack. And here we're front bumper, and this is still a bit of a problem right now. It's also sitting awfully close to the engine, which can still vibrate a little bit, so you don't want to get it too close. We are, however, gonna use a carbon. We're gonna use a carbon splitter. I'll get out of the way now, which is gonna be sitting a way bit lower than the subframe. So we still have that room, and in case of hitting anything, the splitter is gonna protect this from getting tear or disaster. But we're gonna try get this thing a bit further up, a bit further to the front, and then tilt it just a little bit more to get the maximum amount of room possible. Easier said than done. Dat ze dat niet te afhalen in de fabriek voordat ze gaan spuiten. Heel gek. Oh, deze moet even... Wat? Deze hoeven we nog niet te zien. Oh. That's for later. Yeah, we're at that point. Alright, now that this is more or less in the correct position, we're gonna have to see if we can get this one a bit further, because right now it's hitting the chassis here in the inner part. So we're gonna cut away some carbon. Overeenkomt. Ja, dat is aardig. Dit is wel netjes. Nice. We're quickly gonna mount the sway bar and gaslight me into thinking this is high enough, because apparently this is one of the lowest parts. So if this is lower than this, we're good. Nee, hij is lager. Het is een kwestie van perspectief. Nee, dit is... Ja, vanaf op de grond denk ik ook lager. Nee, dit is goed. Dit is goed. Dat kan wel. Dat kan wel. Dat gaat wel. Ja, dat gaat ook niet. Net weet je, dat is een budget hier. It fits. Now, what I've done is I've taken off the air conditioning pulley, which we're not going to be using. And obviously you can't just mount it like this because it's going to be really imbalanced. But we can still lay this back, make it balanced. But for now we can at least use this to see if it fits. Easy. Perfect. Perfect.
Where does the
Fans.
fan?
2. I'm only...
Only fan. Only that.
A few moments later.
So we more or less have the position of the airbox completed. The question now is how far we want to angle it. The more you angle it towards the engine, the more ground clearance you have, but the closer it is to the engine. So it's choosing between ground clearance and engine clearance. So what we're going to do is we are going to put this on loosely, and we're going to grab a bumper that we had originally planned to use on this car. Mind you, it's not the bumper we're actually going to use. So it's not the permanent bumper. It's just one we had in mind. So the other bumper has the same, sort of the same splitter, so I think we're good. We've found the least terrible position. Now we've tested it with the front splitter and it clears just fine. This lines up to the front bumper, so we can trim this and make it perfectly flush with the front bumper. And all of the coolant ports, they line up with where they're supposed to be. So now we're gonna mount this to the chassis, and then we can move on to some more fun stuff, because we're gonna custom make a expansion tank. We're gonna make a custom expansion tank, because obviously the old one doesn't fit and the OEM one is ugly. If you wanna see what it looks like. In order to mount these, we're gonna use some rivets, I think they're called. It's like, no, not rivet, it's blindklinkmoer. First, this is the first time we're actually measuring anything. Nah, we've tested it before.
I haven't seen you measure anything today.
79.
It's finally mounted, you're gonna start measuring.
79. That's not skill, that's luck. All right, that is it for the radiator. It's sitting in the car, obviously. All right, the radiator is in for the last and final time. We mounted it all up, it looks fantastic. This is the best position we're gonna get it in, because it was either getting it too close to the engine or getting it too close to the floor, but now I think we have the best of both worlds. You see, it clears the splitter, there's still some room beneath it, and it's not the lowest part of the car. This is gonna be finished for now. We're now gonna continue with the expansion tank, because having this radiator setup requires us to make a new radiator tank, expansion tank. Normally you'd have one sitting right here. It looks like absolute. We're not gonna do that. We're not gonna use the OEM tank. I'll put a picture up from Google or from True's car. But yeah, the idea I had was to make a custom one. We're gonna make a custom aluminum expansion tank. And I was thinking, we're gonna be putting it in here, because this side is clear and I kind of want to keep this side clear as well, to make it more symmetrical. So we're going to be making a expansion tank here. Now I can't design for shit, so the easiest thing for me is to make it more complex. So we're going to quickly 3D scan this area. We're going to use the computer to design a model that will flow with the contours of the strut tower here, and that will allow us to make something that looks nice, just fits in nicely. Then because one of the viewers in the last video said you can actually powder coat yourself now that you have an oven. So we bought a cheap powder coating kit from eBay, and we're gonna try powder coat the kit ourselves, because with all of this, we don't want a aluminum tank here. So we're gonna powder coat it black. So we're gonna grab the 3D scanner and we're gonna scan it up, make a model, and then weld one from aluminum, because
Heb je al zo vaak gedaan?
I have done so much welding, especially aluminum.
The next day.
Give me the mic. Okay, so it's time for the expansion tank. So what we need to do is scan this area to make it flush and fit with the engine bay, because we need it to flow together and not be like a boxy tank that stands out.
You know,
Like mine, yeah, I know.
Yeah. All right, so after going back to the computer, remaking design, we spent 40 minutes making a design and 2 hours trying to print it in a true 1:1 scale. Why is printing in 3D easier than in 2D? I swear to God, 2D printers. Either way, we got all the drawings here. All we need to do now is cut them out in metal, paper, draw them over, and then weld them together. Except we got everything here. We got the nipples, the clamps. Wait, that sounded wrong. We're just missing the gas, okay? We're just missing the gas. So we're gonna make it, but we can't weld it. So it's a shame you can't see my welding skills for now. Next up, we're gonna take his liver. This was not on purpose. It's the Pope. Let's not go there.
No.
Okay. Now we're gonna professionally fold this in the perfect orientation.
Hoe wij dat kunnen doen dan?
Where's the hammer? Krijg je werkbank nou zo of niet voeren, die borden moeten hier ook neerzetten.
Oké.
People actually doing this for a job are cringing right now.
Beetje.
Today we're going to talk about AC frequency on your Everlast machine. So now we've ran 60, 120, we're going to move on to 250 hertz.
It's been a long time, okay? And by a long time, I mean, I've never done this. No. I've welded aluminum before, I really did. A couple of years ago. I made a catch can, so I welded like 2 circles on my Alibaba AC/DC inverter, which actually is pretty fucking decent. It was like 600 bucks for an AC/DC welder. Pretty good. So just freshening up my core mechanics. But yeah, how hard can it be? They make it look so easy. Joe wanted to dim the lights because it looked cooler. So there you go. This is welding 101 in the dark for extra difficulty. We're pouring it. More about it.
A few moments later.
It could be worse. It could be worse.
Qu'est-ce que je vais te nommer? Je vais te nommer l'amour, l'amour tendre, l'amour qui chante doucement dans mon cœur, l'amour sans logique à la raison.
Alright, now that we've made the tank, the fun part, it's time for the less fun part, actually somehow keeping it in place. So we're gonna have to make some brackets. Now the easiest thing would be to like make a little L bracket, hook it up onto the cage. That's ugly. we don't want that. So we're gonna complicate things and make a bracket on the bottom on two sides to make it a little bit sturdier. However, they're gonna be out of sight, meaning all the measurements I take are also gonna be out of sight, because it's a little bit tricky getting down here, and as you probably know by now, I'm not good at working things out. I just mostly just wing it. So that's what we're going to be doing today. Alright, we had to call it quits early because we were missing the weld-on fittings, because instead of a push-on hose we've opted for AN fittings because they look a bit neater. For example, this is a -6 line and we're going to use a -4 line for the breather valve, which we're going to run from here along the fuel rail from the back, and then something like this. It's much neater than having to run it through here or somewhere else because it'll just look messy. So we're going to run it through the back. Then we have the big one that's going to go onto the front right here. That's going to run through the water pump as the main expansion line. So these two are the only ones left to weld on, and then we can actually powder coat it. Finally. Seems about right. Oh nee, dat is verkeerd. Maar dit is ook goed. Alright, that is the last welding we're going to be doing today. Probably, unless there's holes in it. We're going to let it cool off, then do the famous water test. See if I have holes in my ship. And if everything is good, we can actually powder coat it. So we'll let it cool off for the shortest possible amount we can get away with without burning ourselves. And we'll go from there.
Die werkt in ieder geval wel.
Should be good.
Yeah.
Because this cap releases pressure 1 bar or 1.1. So if the internal pressure reaches 1 bar or 1.1 bar, the cap is pushed further open, and then this opens pretty much. So it doesn't just explode, which is pretty convenient. Seems to work. All aboard! Oké. Is genoeg.
L'amour sans logique à la raison.
The next day.
Alright, now with most of the engine bay already finished, one thing remains. Something a lot of people have been complaining about. No one has actually, but I have, which is the most important part. This old brake booster. Not only is it ugly, it could be better. You see, because every street car needs a pedal box. So we're gonna rip this one out, put in a really, really good looking pedal box. Not the pedal box type with the pedals in the footrest area. No, we're gonna mount a bulkhead pedal box with 2 cylinders instead of 1 cylinder. They'll allow us to adjust the brake bias. We had them shipped overnight to us, Candy, which happened to came with a really fancy pedal box. So this small company in Latvia, I think, they make this system primarily for the E46, but it also bolts onto the E36. And basically, this goes through the bulkhead to the original pedal. So you just plug in the original pedal. Usually, you'd have the brake pedal pushing the cylinder, but you're going to be pushing a single cylinder. So you have the brake pedal just pushing towards this with 2 outputs, the front and the rear of the car. Instead, we're going to be using 2. So instead of 1 cylinder for the entire car, we're going to have 1 for the front, 1 for the rear. And this will allow us to change the And this will allow us to change the brake balance between the rear and the front of the car. The way that works is you have this contraption with a single input, but then 2 outputs. So they're going to be mounted like here. And you then have the input acting on the middle of the brake balance bar, so it's called. So one is mounted here, one is mounted here, and then the force is applied to the middle of the bar. However, due to the thread, you can change the position. So if it's exactly centered, you push the brake balance bar and both cylinders are going to be pressed at the same time. However, if you thread it one way, for example sitting here, you brake it again, it's going to push one side earlier than the other side, applying more pressure to this side, or vice versa, like this. And then you can change how much force is applied between the rear and the front of the car. So, very simple but ingenious system, and we're going to be mounting it in the car, hopefully, because the roll cage is going to be somewhere here. Somewhere here. I haven't looked yet, but I did go in advance with the shorter tilt-on cylinders, because these are the shortest, smallest cylinders you can get. The other ones are quite bulky. Gonna be sitting here. Yeah. We'll first get the old shit out, and then we'll see if it fits. Oh yeah, if you're wondering what we're doing, we're pulling this apart because we've found a manufacturing fault. I'll show you in a second. All right, so the problem is, yeah, we can't have that. It's the only working outlet we have, which also happens to be in the most photogenic position, so yeah. All right, with that little side project out of the way, we can now actually put on the cylinders and start installing it. Because we haven't even started yet. We're pretty much as far as unboxing it, and then took a little sidetrack there. But it's worth it. Looks much better. You gotta agree with me. This is a much better finish in contrast to the aluminum. And if you disagree, all right, so this is now in. the reservoirs and everything's in. We just need to make the 2 last brake lines from the cylinders to the ABS pump. Alright, that's it. The brake cylinders are all in, it's all hooked up. It was actually pretty easy. We just had to make 2 new lines. The rest just fit straight to the bulkhead. The most difficult part was actually getting up under the dashboard to fit the actual rod to the brake pedal, which seems simple enough when you can just reach in there and visually see it and modify it with your hands. I'm also really happy with the build quality of these because I was looking around for some pedal boxes earlier, and I've had some before, but most of them are sheet metal, folded, or really flimsy in general. And this one is pretty nice. A friend of mine bought these from Latvia, Litouwen, Latvia, and to my surprise, the build quality was absolutely fantastic. They're made by Motorsport Force. We're not sponsored by these guys. I'm kind of technically sponsored by Choi because I gaslighted him into also buying one. So I got the bulk discount. So thank you to Choi for sponsoring me. But I was the guinea pig, so now we can do it on his car, among other things. Well, we'll get to that another time.
A few moments later.
Powder coating 101. This process is perfect for us because one of the key selling points was, let me show you, a professional looking finish can be achieved with limited skill and experience. You don't even need to read the manual. That's all you need. It should be pretty easy. Ground it, blast it, cook it. That's what we're good at. I wasn't expecting it to be so fluid.
All at the same time.
Who said manuals weren't useful? All right. This. Imagine fixing the air leaks. Nah. So before we potentially fuck up the part we've been working on, we're gonna test this little bracket first. That goes right. We'll do the rest. All right, it's out of the oven and it's looking absolutely fantastic. I can't believe how well this came out. We leak tested it, we pressure tested it, we drop tested it. We're now gonna mount it in the car, but first we're gonna make some custom hoses because we made these nice fancy AN fittings on the front and the rear. We have to wait till lines come in because we ordered them too late. The manufacturer had a delay. Anyway, let's get on to making some custom hoses. Put this in the car and see what it looks like.
1 week later.
Welcome to my coolant store. No, all right, it's the next weekend because we had to order some parts. We already had some silicone hoses, but you know, we can't just use blue ones. So we ordered some black hoses, even gone as far as to find black hose clamps somewhere. It'll do for now. We're gonna weld some stuff, we're gonna make some stuff. They're really boring. We're gonna make a cooling system. Just watch.
Just pipes.
Just pipes and hoses. What's funny about that? Just pipes and hoses and clamps.
Yeah.
All right, that's just.
Wist je dat het gatentoeltje werkte?
Ik weet hoe het toeltje werkt, hè? Ik heb alleen niks gemeten. I've made an executive decision. We're gonna cut up the radiator. Right now, this is angled towards the radiator, but this is gonna go the other way. So we're gonna cut this off, remount it in the correct orientation so it lines up exactly with this, and then weld a corner on top of it. So we only need to use a straight tube instead of having two separate pieces. Is dit heel onverantwoord?
Nee, zo zie ik dat daar op internet. Weet je wel, die Chinese...
Kijk, dit is toch ook in theorie een reprozaag?
Ja, zaak is zaak.
Ik zou niet weten waarom het niet kan. Then it struck me, it looks like ass. I just can't explain why. It's just, if you have such a straight tube. So I figured we'll make a new little hose that follows the lines of the engine. So we're gonna go down here and then move along the lines of the engine. It'll look a bit neater and a bit nicer. At least that's my opinion. But let me know in the comments what you think. Am I just being autistic or is it actually better looking? Let me know. It's autistic, I know. This was supposed to be the easy thing because it just goes down. Yeah, we figured we'll start with the easiest pipe, go from there. It's day 2. There's still nothing. All right, we're all done with the main radiator hoses, these and these ones. They look absolutely fantastic. We also changed up the fittings on the aluminum radiator itself because they didn't quite line up the way I wanted them to be, even though I thought they would, but that's just how it goes. I'm not a fabricator, but they do look fairly nice in my opinion, especially once we're done sugarcoating my welds. By that I mean we're gonna powder coat it black, so it's not gonna draw any attention to my welding skills. But it's watertight, that's the most important thing. After that, we're gonna do some more fun jobs. By fun jobs, I mean the things we postpone till last because they suck the most. One of them being the main expansion line. This runs from the water pump all the way to the expansion tank. This is a steel OEM hose, but it ends up right here in a clip fitting, which usually clips onto the OEM looking expansion tank, which I've already said enough about. So we're gonna cut it up somewhere around here, and from there on we're gonna run an AN line to the expansion tank, which is gonna look way nicer. And then we have the grand finale, because I had to practice a bit with welding aluminum. However, once you have cast aluminum, it's a whole different story. Because due to the way we set up the radiator, usually the radiator is the highest point of a cooling system, meaning all the trapped air in the engine will go up to the radiator. But if you put the radiator down here, all the air is going to be trapped inside of the engine because the air in the engine or in the system is going to run to the highest point, which is no longer the radiator. So trapped air inside the engine is a big no-no because it'll cause the engine to overheat. So we're going to have to get the air out of the engine somehow. And to do that, we're going to weld an extra nipple onto the thermostat housing right here. This is one of the highest points, which is relatively accessible. And by that, I mean I'm willing, forced to weld into this because we can actually replace it. If I do this anywhere else, I'm gonna risk torching the engine, which we don't want to do. So we're gonna run an AN fitting from here to the expansion tank as well. So all the air trapped inside of the engine can find its way up to the expansion tank and then bleed out. That, in theory, should completely fix and make a reliable cooling system. Should, and in theory, which is two core principles we've been going on for the past couple of months, so I don't see any problems there. Hoezo film je dit? Hier hebben we echt al 600 opnames van.
Nee,
Dat ik deze aan het slijten ben.
hoeveel dingen heb je ook gebruikt?
Beroepsgeheim.
Zelfs als een magician vraagt.
Who is it never tells his tricks? Echt mijn best zitten doen. Hartslag hoog als wanneer je een marathon loopt. Ik zou eerlijk zeggen, ik ben wel blij met mezelf.
1 week later.
Alright, it's now the next day. We're up early and fresh at 12:30. It doesn't matter. Well, actually, we do have a slight issue because I had an old clutch laying around, and being a cheapskate, I thought I'd be able to reuse that, except it's so warped I don't even need any tools to see that it's completely unusable. So, we can't install the clutch, so we're gonna go on a little side quest and fix up the GTR that's been sitting in a corner for the past couple of years, which is my personal project. I've been working on that car for years and years. I've had it for, I think, close to 12 years now. I've been building it and building it ever since. The latest revision, however, has got a little sidetracked since we started GRAUSLICK, and the thing is, it's just feeling a bit sorry for itself. The way it's sitting in the corner, no headlights, no splitter. So we're gonna fake it. We're gonna put the splitter on. We're gonna put the headlights on in the front a little bit, just to make it look a bit cooler, fill up the space a bit more. And then I might just have some motivation again to start working on it. Now, really, motivation isn't the issue. It's just we don't have any time whatsoever. We're just here on weekends, and on weekends we have to finish this car and keep Cho's car running and keep our stomachs filled, and then there's no time left for any other projects. But let me give you a small recap of this car. This is a simple E36, which through the years I've had many engines in, M54, S54, S50, and eventually an LS paired with a DCT swap, which was a great success. It wasn't. So eventually it kind of escalated into a sequential, fully built LS, dry sumped, which I still haven't finished or haven't been able to finish due to time constraints. And well, actually, the reason this car isn't finished is because I started working on the C-Type car, you know. So everything's been lightened. We've got full composite doors, composite roof, body panels, everything's been lightened. So the hood, the fenders, side skirts, rear arches, everything's fiberglass. And not just any fiberglass, this is like bulletproof. For
Aufmachen!
Nee.
Just dust it off. This car deserves some love.
So yeah, this has been my dream build for many years. Since the first time I drove an E36 on the track, I knew I wanted to build a car like this someday. And I've been building it over the years and it's had many revisions, but this is, well, I want to say the final one, but I'm sure I'm gonna change it up sometime again. But for now, we're just gonna quickly make it look nice, presentable. Fake it, as you will.
Fake till you make it.
Fake it till you make it. Yeah, don't look too close at this one. This is...
If you see how you're treating that car, that everything needs to get powder coated and sweet and nice. If it's not nice, and then this.
It's a
Brother!
It's a temporary piece.
Als hem niet kleiner.
Nee, look op. Look op, je hoeft niet
Ja,
uit
je
te
moet
pakken.
filmen toch?
Ja, nee, dat snap ik. All right, now that we have our little fix of gratification, or you know, the dopamine rush of seeing it together, we can put it back in the corner where it belonged and continue with the E36. All right, that's it. We're all done with the welding, the grinding, the measuring hoses, or measuring not so much, to be honest. Started out as a simple expansion tank relocation, which is Cho's fault because he showed me how not to do it. We ended up having to fabricate everything to spec because it ended up not just being the expansion tank, but the radiator itself, the radiator hoses, the original cooling pipes that end up in the engine, even the thermostat we had to weld, which I really enjoyed doing. We can now finally put it in the car because we've only seen the individual parts in the car and not so much everything together. So next up, I'm gonna mount in the car, see what it looks like. That's gonna be it for this episode. The next one, we're gonna focus on the bodywork because I have some really awesome plans for that. But first, we have some work to do. Except, not on this car. I heard they made a submarine out of this stuff, so it should be sweet.